Hey there! How do you learn something that is just too big for you to attack? A solo, a song with just 16 or 18 different chords, and it just seems like that's an impossible task. Well, there's a specific system that you can use that is not only a way out of that, but it's also always the most effective, fastest way to learn anything. And it is to make sure that you take it in small parts. So you take that, let's say it's a solo, it's a chord progression, whatever it is, you take a little part of it, like 2 chords, and then you practice that in a loop. Let's say you have some hard chords here, like you have to do a C major 7th, C minor major 7th, and then you have to do minor flat, minor 7 flat 5, and all kinds of things here, right? And you have to place your fingers in a new way. Then what you do is, instead of playing the chord progression from start to end like most of us would do, you take the first 2 chords, loop them over and over again. And I'm not saying this, just because it works, because out of my experience, it's been proven over and over again that people have taken scientists, behavioral psychologists that try to figure out how to learn the fastest, have been looking at people who were learning faster than other people, who were alleged talented, right? And they looked at them and they find out that this is what they do. They never ever go for the whole thing. They go for the whole thing, but as soon as they encounter any resistance, anything they cannot do, they create a little loop around it and just go over and over and over and over and over again, and then they continue. Instead of trying to play the whole thing over and over again, wasting your time playing a lot of things you can do and a little bit of things you can't do. So you create a loop of, and then you focus intensely on that loop of just those 2 chords. And then you make progress, very rapid progress. But in 5 minutes of doing this, you will absolutely have made progress. And you won't if you play all 7 chords or 8 or 16 chords, right? So go back and forth like that. And even if this is really hard and you're new to whatever it is that you're playing, you spend a week going back and forth between these 2. Because once you learn the first 2, it'll be much easier learning the next 2, because now your fingers are in training. They've been doing new things, have become more flexible. But that won't happen if you play the whole chord progression from start to end. It'll take you forever to learn it. So you loop it over and over again. Let's say just for a week, if we get really extreme here, right? You play that first with total focus, then in front of the TV, talking to friends, over and over again, right? And people say, you have to focus on it, Klaus. You cannot, focus on other things as you practice. You can if you first practice it with the metronome and you build that precision at a slow level of speed. And then when it's easy to do, very slowly, and you can do other things, like you get bored now, right? And then you start getting entertained by, sitcoms, the news, whatever, right? As your body is learning like this. So you create that loop over and over again for a week, if that's really hard, right? Maybe for 5 minutes only. On whatever level you're on with the thing you're practicing. You loop it until you can do it unconsciously almost. It's back and forth, right? Then you add the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And then you keep going back to what you've already learned to just test and see if you're still good at it, right? And then go back and forth like that, chopping it up like that. And then you get faster and faster and faster at learning the new set of chords because you gain mastery over the first chords you learn. This is 10 times the learning time. So if you have a whole solo like that, like instead of going everything slow from the beginning, you take just 2 notes or 4 notes and then play them over and over and over again. Take the next notes over and over and over and over again, looping like that. Then combining it with the first, going back and forth between the 2 things you now know, back and forth over and over and over and over again. Now you have that first thing in place. Now your fingers know what to do. Then you go on to the next thing. That will be even easier to learn. And the next thing will be even easier. And that's the way to go about it. You can learn anything this way, and you can do so effectively. You will absolutely increase the learning speed by, 100% at least. You'll double it. at least, right? Depending on how you are practicing at this moment, of course. So that's the way to attack anything. And when you do that enough, you just get used to it. That's just how you do it, and you stop being overwhelmed all the time. You stop being that's 16 chords because I can absolutely do that. That's no problem. You just take the first two like a loop, next two and combine the two, and then onto the next, combine the three, right? And then you move ahead, and you just do it every single time. So you gain that process of working your brain in the most effective way, instead of doing the intuitive, the caveman monkey strategy of saying, that's a lot here, so let's do a lot, right? It doesn't work, although it's the most intuitive way, but not for the guitar, it doesn't work. So happy practicing.